Hello and welcome to this overview of the AP English Literature and Composition Writing Scale that is used for the AP exam, as well as this revised scale which you see in front of you that's going to be used for the AP English Literature and Composition course from this point onward to the end of the course. It's important that students become familiar with this writing scale so that they know what to expect when it comes time to take the AP exam in May. And the best way for that to happen certainly is to look over this writing scale together, as well as to utilize it within our own course. In last unit's Lesson 5 AP Prep lesson, we looked over kind of the basics of the AP scoring guideline of how the multiple choice is scored, and then also the writing scale, mentioning the 9, the 8, the 7, the 6, and the other scores. In this document that you have here in front of you, you'll be able to see that the main scores are bolded, that is used on the AP exam, as well as a description that kind of accompanies those exams. So the highest one that a student could score on the AP exam is a 9, which ends up becoming exemplary. There also is highly effective scores of an 8 as well as a 7. So the 9 is the highest possible score the student can attain. An 8 is still a very, very good score to have, and a 7 is still an excellent score to have, effective as the College Board people would say. Below that becomes the 5 and the 6 category, which ends up being adequate. What this means is the student is fulfilling the responsibilities that he or she has for the writing assignment, but they're not doing enough to really separate themselves as a top candidate for their writing. So a score of a 5 essentially means a student's not doing anything wrong, but they're really not doing enough to make themselves, really look like a good writer. A 6, I think it's a little bit misleading for it to be determined as adequate. A 6 is still a very solid score, and a student can score a 5, 4 or 5 on the AP exam as a whole, and still score some 6 essays. Certainly 7, 8s, and 9s help, but a 6 essay is certainly nothing to hang one's head down about. An essay of a 5, it's getting the job done, but certainly more can be done. So the 5 through the 9 scores are the passing scores for the AP exam. Below that, you have the categories of inadequate and little success, which essentially send the message that not enough is being done. The 4 is really the division in the AP scale. A 4 is not a passing score. Now again, keep in mind, a 4 essay on its own does not mean the student does not pass the AP exam. It's just that that particular specific essay does not pass. Most students who are going to pass the AP exam are going to have a score of at least a 15 among all 3 essays. So if a student has a 4 essay and then has a 5 essay and a 6 essay, 15 has still been scored, and as long as that student does reasonably well in the multiple choice, scoring at least half of the questions right, he or she will most likely pass the AP exam. So scoring 1-4 on the AP exam is not necessarily a death knell for the AP exam, but it's certainly something that we want to try to stay away from. When you get to scores now of a 3, a 2, a 1, or even a 0, which is completely off topic, now you're getting into a little bit of the bottom essays, the weaker ones, the ones that really need a lot more work. Scores of 3 are ones that we really want to stay away from. A 4 is something that there's still usually some potential with, but really we're looking for 6, 7, 8 essays, and in some cases, ultimately a 9. Now, this document that you see, which has percentages and plus and minuses on it, is the essay scoring writing scale that we are going to use in this course for the rest of the semester. And so you can see, and there's a copy of this is available for your viewing, for your download, but you can see how the scoring is broken down. All scores have the round number, the solid number of the 9, the 8, the 7, the 6. You also can have a 9 minus, an 8 minus, a 7 minus, or you can also have a plus, such as a 6 plus, a 7 plus, an 8 plus. Did not put a 9 plus in because a 9 is the highest scoring essay anyway. What this means is in this course, for all essay assignments from here on out, not counting any type of grasp activity because that has its own separate rubric, but for any essay, whether it be a non-timed or a timed essay, such as the AP prompts, that we do throughout the course, they'll be scored on this scale. Now, you won't be receiving, a 7, an 8, a 6 plus in a grade book. you'll be receiving the percentage that corresponds with each grade. So if a student gets a 7, in the gradebook, they'll have an 88%, which is a B+, which certainly means that they are writing an effective essay, but there still is some progress that can be made. A score, and also the idea is that a score of a 7 is also the best predictor that the teacher can make about how well that essay would score on the AP exam. So all the scoring that you receive would be as if you were writing this on the AP exam from this point out. If one student scores a 7 minus, second student scores a 7, third student scores a 7 plus. You have 3 separate essays, and the instructor feels that they are of separate qualities. The 7 plus is the highest scoring, the 7 is in the middle, and the 7 minus is the lowest scoring. So each student will receive a different percentage, whether it be an 86, B, an 88, which is a B plus, or a 90%, A minus. Now, the fact that all of them have a 7 means that in the instructor's mind, each student would on the AP exam score a 7. But a student that has a 7 plus is becoming very close to that 8 range. And so it's probably just a little tweak, a little change here or there that could get that 7 plus up to an 8. By the same token, the student that has a 7 minus, the 86% B, still has a 7 on the AP exam, to the best of the instructor's ability to surmise. But he or she also believes that the student is becoming dangerously close to the adequate range of scoring a 6. So having the minus, the regular, and the plus adds some flexibility from the grading standpoint, and also can differentiate scores for various students. But it also allows the student to have a good idea of where am I falling within that range. Am I close to getting an 8 if I have a 7? Or am I closer to getting a 6 if I have a 7 minus? So a student that has a 5 minus still would pass that particular essay question on the exam, but is becoming dangerously close to getting into that 4 range of an inadequate essay that would not pass the exam. So the hope is that this writing scale gives you, the student, a better understanding of how the AP scoring guideline works, and certainly you can see the description of the scores here, and each description goes along with the bolded score of the 7, the 6, the 8, the 9, and whatnot. But also gives some flexibility for the instructor to appropriately grade all of your writing material. It should be noted that most of the writing assignments that we do in this class are timed, and it is possible for timed scores to get a 9. That does not mean they are perfect. Most timed writing assignments are going to have errors. They are essentially drafts of a different work. But a student can have a misspelling. A student could have a misplaced modifier or a comma mistake and still score a 9 on an essay. So it's important to realize that a 9 essay is not perfect. It's exemplary, it shows in-depth analysis and argument, but it is not absolutely perfect. A good place for students to aim for would probably be the 7-8 range realistically, and then as they begin to hone their skills and develop a little bit more, 9 minuses and 9s might start to creep in. But a lot of times, this 9 essay tends to be the perfect essay, which tends to be prompt dependent or reading dependent based off what book is being analyzed or what poem is being looked at. So I would suggest that students really, try to find this effective range of the scores of the 8s, and in certain cases they'll be able to get up into even 9 essays. So I would print this out. It's a good document to look at. It's an effective document for you to be familiar with, and certainly, hopefully, it will do the job in getting you to better understand what you need to do in order to be successful on the AP exam and for this course as well. Thank you very much.